Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Zillennial Mindset. In today's video, I'll be breaking down the financial order of operations by the Money Guy Show. And these guys here are both certified professional accountants. They are on YouTube. They make videos to educate, just like how I'm trying to make videos to educate. So I will be linking them down below. So I'll be breaking down 1 through 5 because if you are following this channel and you're keeping up with my journey at my age, most likely you are not making enough to max out your retirement account. So we will stop at 5 and I'll break down what each one means, why it's good to do it in these orders so you can maximize your wealth building and retire. Before we begin with the financial order of operations, let's talk about step 0. And step 0 is making sure that you have margin in your life. And what do I mean by margin? So just like any business, a business cannot thrive if their expenses overlap their income. So what does that mean? That means if you are making 50K a year, but your expenses are more than that, then you are currently living paycheck to paycheck and you have to rely on debt to keep fueling your life. And that's what many Americans are facing, as we can see here with the less than 50K, and even all the way up to 150K. That's about half of people that are making more than 150K are living paycheck to paycheck. So we can't begin these steps if we're not in the yellow. So the way we can be in the yellow, either A, you're going to cut back on expenses, realize that certain things that are in your budget are not necessary for your life. B, you need to figure out a way to increase your income. And that's going to be mostly for my people who are making less than 100K. And now I'm saying this and I'm making less than 100K. I know that there's many things I could be doing to increase my income so that way I can have more margin in my life. But currently with my income, I am in the yellow and I also don't have any children. So that makes it a lot easier for me to be able to live with less than 100K. Step 1, deductibles covered. Your deductibles are for your insurances. So there's different deductibles, right? You have health insurance deductible. You have your car insurance deductible. If you have a homeowner's insurance deductible. What the Money Guys suggest is that they want you to have your highest deductible covered before you even start in investing, which I will agree with. This makes a lot of sense because in the event of an emergency where, let's just say, you get in a car accident, and if your deductible for your car is $1,000 and that's your highest deductible, but you don't even have $1,000 in cash to pay that deductible so you can get your car fixed. Remember, your car is what gets you to work. That's how you get your income. So if you can't even cover the deductible for your car and that's your highest deductible, then you're setting yourself up for failure before you even begin. That's why I think it's important that this is the first step. This is actually very smart by them that they make sure that you're covering your highest deductible. And in my case personally, my highest deductible is actually my homeowner's insurance because my deductible for my homeowner's insurance is $1,000. If you have your highest deductible covered in your savings account today, you can check off the box and move on to step number 2, employer match. If you have a job where they offer you a 401k and they're offering you a match on any amount of money that you're contributing, so I'm going to use a generic number here and say 5%. If they say, if you put in 5%, we're going to give you 5%, that is you getting 100% rate of return on your money. So you might as well take advantage of the employer match because it's free money. Now, if they say you have to contribute 10% in order to get the 5%, then I would be considered a 50% rate of return. And these numbers are still going to be greater than any credit card debt that you have. At this point, you should take advantage of the employer match first before paying off your credit card debt. With the 5% example, they're saying that if you make a small sacrifice of 5%, that will be 2.6 weeks of your pay today that will grow and become 6.7 years in your retirement. You're making a small sacrifice today so you can shorten your time that it would take for you to get to retirement.
Oh my.
So you're taking advantage of your employer match, you're maxing that out. Now you can move on from this step and move on to step number 3. And step number 3 is high interest debt. And the Money Guys are saying that high interest debt is extremely harmful to your finances, which I will definitely agree to because these credit cards can range from anywhere from 20% on the low end to like 34% on the high end interest per year. These balances can keep ramping up, ramping up, ramping up, and you'll realize that these credit cards are here to make money on you. They're not here to help you. So you're paying that minimum payment, and you'll realize that the interest is accruing faster than the minimum payment. Is why I always tell people, if you have a credit card, pay the statement off in full every month and don't look back. I have 6 credit cards myself, and I've never paid interest a single day in my life because I stuck to my principles and I told myself I'm only going to spend money that I actually have. So if you cannot be honest with yourself and you can't tell yourself, okay, I have a spending problem, then do not get a credit card. If you know you can manage your money well and you can budget, then credit cards are great. And then you may be asking, well, how can I build my credit without a credit card? Well, there's other ways for you to build your credit. You can build your credit by paying off the light bill, paying off your phone bill. They now report those things to the credit bureaus. So you do not need a credit card to build your credit. So they also consider car loans outside of the 23-8 rule as high interest debt. And I will break down what the 23-8 rule is. So the 23-8 rule is that they are telling you that you should put down 20% on your car. You should finance it for no more than 3 years, and it should not take up more than 8% of your gross income. And the reason why they have these strict rules is because car payments nowadays are taking up so much of people's income that they don't even have any money to save or invest for their future. They think that they will never be able to get out of that hole. But if you realize that if you set yourself to a lower standard of living where you get yourself a cheaper car, you'll realize that you'll have so much more money freed up so you can save and invest for your future. Also, they consider student loans depending on the interest rate and the age. Student loans for your 20s, they said that if the interest rate is higher than 10%, it's considered high interest debt. If you are in your 20s and you do have student loans, if your student loans are higher than 10%, make sure you tackle them before you move on to the next step. So you paid off all your high interest debt. I just want to say, before we move on to the next step, please give yourself a pat on the back, because the average credit card balance right now for an American is about $66,000
No
per
way!
person. That is a lot of debt. And also, I did another question. Put what percentage of Americans have credit card debt? And that is 45 to 47%. So if you are at step number 4, you are 1 in 2 American adult today. So just for that, I would say give yourself a pat on the back. So the emergency fund, it ranges depend on what your goals are. On the low end, it could be 3 months, and on the higher end, it could be up to a year or even 2 years, depending on what your dreams and aspirations are. So we can start with the 3 months. What most people would have 3 months for is somebody who is single with no kids. They have their only responsibility is themselves, so they can afford to have 3 months, because if something would happen, if their job is stable enough, if something would have happened, they'll probably be able to find a new job relatively quickly, or they can even move to get another job opportunity. They have more flexibility in their life. Somebody who will go for 6 months will be somebody who has kids on a single income. They may need a little bit more cushion because of their children. And where may you need more than 6 months? I would say this ranges if you are a homeowner and you know that you have expenses coming up, like the roof needs to be changed or just anything in general. I would always maybe recommend having a little bit more if you are a homeowner. And let's just say, what would make you want to go even beyond that year if you're trying to pursue entrepreneurship? Currently, my emergency fund is about 5 months. I'm working to get it to 6. And the reason why I have increased it, because I'm a government employee and all this shutdown nonsense, I told myself that I want to have it a little bit higher, just because of, even though my job is secure, it's one of those things where the politics behind it all, you just never know how long these shutdowns can go. And we got really close to those 3 months, a little too close for my comfort. So I told myself I'm going to make sure that over the next year I will work to get it to 6 months. So I am almost there. That's currently the update of my emergency fund. Where should you be putting your money in the emergency fund? Don't put it in your regular banking account like Chase, Citibank, or Bank of America, because they pay no interest on that money. So yes, it is sitting in that account, but you could be making a lot more money on that emergency fund by putting it in something called a high yield savings account. A lot of online banks offer better rates than the average brick and mortar banks. And what he means by that is, like I said earlier, the Chase, the Bank of Americas, the Citibanks, those big banks, they're not looking out for your best interests. You want to go with those online banks. And where I have my emergency fund, I actually have it. If you watch my second video, I actually have my emergency fund through my brokerage account, and I use that cash sweep feature as my high yield savings account. Your emergency fund is now fully funded for your exact situation and your exact needs for your family. We can move on to step number 5, and this is where you actually start investing for the first time, which is your Roth IRA and your HSA. We're going to break down these two because these are two separate accounts and they do two separate things. Real quick, brief summary. Roth IRA is a retirement account. It's an individual retirement account where you put in after tax dollars or dollars that you already paid taxes on. You could put it into this account. You let the money grow. It grows tax free as long as you don't take it out before 59 and a half. That is the quick 1, 2, 3 summary of the Roth IRA. If you want to learn more about the Roth IRA, I have made a video about it. The HSA is a little bit more complicated. HSA is a health savings account where you can use it for retirement depending on what you're using it for. Before you can even have access to this account, you need something called a high deductible health plan, where the deductible is higher, and that's where the government says, okay, well, because your deductible is higher, we will allow you to contribute money into a savings account for yourself where the money can grow. It's pre-tax money that you're contributing, and that money can grow tax-free as long as you use the money to pay for your medical expenses. This is probably the most powerful account, the HSA, and for this account, you can only contribute $4,400 per year if you're an individual. If you have a family account, that will be $8,750 for 2026, and these are 2026 numbers, so everything can change if you're seeing this video in the future. You may be asking yourself, well, I already have the 401k. What is the point of having a Roth IRA and a HSA? The point is that you have a 401k with your job, but let's just say you want to leave your job. Now you have all that money trapped into a 401k, and you have to call your bank and move all this money around, and it can get very complicated if you don't know what you're doing. The money guys and I also both agree that you should be funding these accounts that are not tied to your employer, because these are your accounts. You can control it. You have more flexibility, and these will be better for you when it comes down to actually seeing what you're investing in. Because those 401ks, a lot of them have high expense ratios. A lot of times you don't even know what you're investing in. Now, if you want to know what ETFs to invest in, I also made a video about that. You can go and scroll down. I'll leave it in the description down below. After you complete this and you max out both of those accounts, that's when you know you completed step 5. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I want to add 2 more things because I did edit the video first and then I did my conclusion. So as I was editing, I realized that I didn't include how much you can contribute to a Roth IRA in 2026, which is $7,500. I also wanted to note that if you are on step 5 and you don't want to use the HSA because you are not going to use a high deductible health plan, you can still complete step 5 without having an HSA. But the HSA is just that powerful that they include it. In my opinion, if you have a lot of medical expenses and you know you constantly go to the doctor, do not put yourself in a worse financial position by having a high deductible health plan when you can just spend a little bit more money and get the more expensive low deductible health plan where more of your medical expenses will be covered, so you don't run into financial troubles. If you like the video, make sure you give it a like. Liking the video allows the YouTube algorithm to know that it was a good video. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure you leave a comment, because comments allow me to interact with you, and it also allows me to know that people are actually engaging with the video and learning something. That's the whole point of me making videos. Also, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so that way you don't miss another video when I post. And I post weekly. Thank you for tuning in today's weekly video. Millennial Mindset out.